How are you doing this afternoon, Vicki?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm tired, but doing okay. Work's been a little stressful lately. Um, Today I have with me a friend of mine, Vikki Bogdan, who's actually a farmer and a preacher, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and a takeaway for women 50 plus or younger to get them through the tough times of life. So Vikki, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thanks, Jeannie. So I was thinking about the books that have meant a lot to me in my life, and particularly two books have meant the world to me. They were like watershed moments in time. Not talking about the Bible now. I'm just talking about books that I picked up off the shelf, almost like God put them in my hands. The first one happened early on in my farming career, and I was married and raising children. It was copyrighted in 1981. My first son was born in 79. It's called the Cinderella Complex. And I couldn't find my paperback copy, so I went online and found this book. And it talks about women's hidden fear of being independent and how we always have a back door open because we can always find us a man and we can settle down with kids. And so it spoke to me at the time because I had been farming with my dad. And when I got married and had my first son, I was staying at home with him, and then I started back to work when my second son was born. So you get what I'm talking about. I started back farming on the farm. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that she was telling the truth, that really I always had that back door open as a woman. Now, we talk a lot about how women are trained to do certain things and be submissive and all. My dad raised me to think there was nothing I couldn't do. And I still believe that to this day. My dad didn't treat me like you would a little princess. I was his little tomboy. I was his little follower. I was tagging along behind him from the time I was little. And so I didn't have some of the baggage that women carry, from thinking they can't do things. But I did have plenty of baggage from this particular aspect. And so when I realized I had that back door open, I closed the back door. I said, no, that you're going to be like the men in your life and know that you have to make your own way in the world. So I became fiercely independent. I was already very independent, but I became fiercely independent. Fiercely independent really brought me a lot of trouble. It was good in a lot of ways on the farm, but it was not particularly good for me on a personal level. And so I made some messes along the way of my life. And as the stress of farming got greater and greater, can't blame farming. I'm not blaming farming. It's what I did with it. I sought solace in a bottle of alcohol. And so I became an alcoholic. Over time, I kept wanting to stop. I would pray to God. I can still remember sitting in the choir loft in the Manning Presbyterian Church saying, God, if you'll forgive me this time, I won't drink this week. The next week would roll around. God, if you'll forgive me this week, I won't drink this week. The next week would roll around. God, if you'll forgive, I know you keep forgiving me, but I promise I'm not going to do it this week. And when I finally was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and my knees hit the bedroom floor, and I said, I surrender, God. I need to give everything to you. I can't do this. I need you to do this for me. And I could just about hear God saying, well, it's about time you asked me for something, because I've been telling God what I was going to do the whole time, But I went to sleep that night, and I've not had any desire for alcohol since then. Now, that's not everybody's story. That's not everybody's story. But I spent the next year and a half at home when I wasn't at work.
That's okay. I have two myself. Don't worry.
The choir is singing. If they come in here singing, I'll go lock them in the front room. Anyway, when I spent that year and a half at home reading my Bible, when I was not at work, I was at home reading the Bible. And I had heard that they had started a Christ-centered 12-step program called Celebrate Recovery up at Salt and Light Church in Sumter. But I didn't need that because I had already quit drinking. A friend of mine knocked on the door and she said, I want to quit drinking like you did. What do I need to do? Well, I didn't have any steps to tell her because I had been doing it just with God's help, right? So I said, well, there's this program in Sumter. Let's go together. I've been wanting to go. Let's go together. And so we went a few times and I kept coming back and she quit coming. But I kept there. I kept going there every Friday night. And it was a Christ-centered program that gave me the opportunity to express my faith, but also to work the steps of recovery and to find out about the steps of recovery, and found out I was working the first 3 steps all along, you know, that I had been doing those over and over again. But to actually make an inventory and try to get honest with ourselves about all the bad stuff we've ever done and try to get honest with another human being, it's tough stuff. And that's why they call it working the program, because it is a lot of work and it's kind of scary when you first start off. Now, once you get a little bit of relief, you say, oh, I want more of that. I want more of that relief. So you're more anxious to do, but taking those first few steps was pretty tough. Well, anyway, so I worked the steps and I stayed in the program, and they had workbooks, and you'd have study groups that would meet during the week, and they would last almost a year.
Wow.
I went through the program. It was like probably 9 months or 10 months. I went through the program one time, went through it another time. Then I became an assistant leader, and then I became a co-leader, and did that for probably, I can't say for sure, maybe 7 years.
Wow.
But every time we worked those steps in those small groups with those little workbooks, I was working the steps too. I wasn't just watching them work them. So I kept in the program so closely that it meant so much to me. And the women that I met there are still my dearest friends, because the program, and it's the same program that I have in Alcoholics Anonymous. They just got a Christ-centered bent on it. But the program works because it teaches us how to live life on life's terms. Wow. And how to take one day at a time with God's help. So I had done the steps many, many times, and we had a conference to go to down at the beach. And these same ladies that I met in recovery went to that conference, and there was a bookstore getting ready to close. So I said, let's go to the bookstore. I love books. I'm sure I'm in. And we walk in there, and this book almost jumped off the shelf at me. I had heard about Brennan Manning from my brother, and I had read the Ragamuffin Gospel, which is his most famous book. And this book jumped into my hands. It's called Abba's Child by Brennan Manning. I'm not holding it straight, and I'm trying to get out of the light. But anyway, this book jumped in my hands. Now, they say that when the student is ready, the teacher arrives, right? And so that's what was happening with these books. They jumped in my hand. The reason they mean so much to me is because they spoke to me where I was. It's what I needed to hear. And it's as if these are God's messengers to me in the things I needed to hear. So even though I had gone through the steps and I was becoming more and more self-aware and more aware of others and their struggles that were around me, more compassionate towards others, not feeling like I had to carry the whole world myself, thank goodness, anymore. But there was still something missing, and I could not put my finger on what it was. I had surrendered to God. I had given him alcohol. I was repairing relationships through the step. And when I read this book, I knew what it was. And I started crying, and I couldn't hardly stop crying. What it was I knew Christ died on the cross for you and everybody else, but not for me, because I was so bad. Because I didn't deserve him to forgive me. And this book taught me how to pick up all those terrible parts of myself and claim them again and say, this is a part of my journey. This is who makes me who I am. These are the things that it took for God to get me to the place where I could totally surrender. And so I could own those things and say, it's okay that I was all those things. Mm-hmm. And when somebody tries to take up for me now that I'm an ordained Presbyterian minister, I said, one of my friends from way back when, she said, I took up for you today. I said, please don't do that. I really was that bad. It's okay. It's okay. Let people say how bad I was. And you can ask them, have you talked to her lately? Have you seen her lately? Because see, that's not me. That's not my work. It's God's work and what God can do in us. And that power is available for all of us to tap into. It's not my personal copyrighted, I got it and you don't have it and you're never going to get it. It's not that. He makes that available to everyone. And I love to say, if you don't think God's still in the miracle business, you don't know me, because I am a mountain that God moved. My life unfolding the way it did, being raised to be so independent, raised to think I could do anything, being taught by this book that I needed to be more independent of the men in my life. I needed to make my own way, blazing that trail for women everywhere. But I wasn't really living. I was surviving, and I was fighting every step of the way. And today I don't have to fight all the time. Today I can just allow life to be what it is. I might not like it at the moment, but it's okay, because if I can accept what's happening today, I can go on to have a better tomorrow.
Right, right, right. So in other words, your mess has become part of your message.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Every bad turn I took, every false turn I took, every dead end I came up to, even the canyons that were box canyons, you know,
Yeah, I do
God
know.
found a way for me to get out of those box canyons. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't
Yes.
hemmed in. I felt hemmed in because box canyon only has 3 sides, right? There's
Right,
always
right.
one side. There's always one side that's open. It might not be obvious, but God always makes a way where there doesn't seem to be a way.
He does.
And
Yes,
we
he
can
does.
depend on that. One day at a time, with God's help, there's nothing we can't do.
No.
So,
And sometimes you just have to, what's become one of my mottos right now is you just have to do it afraid.
oh yeah.
You may not feel like you can, or who are you to do these kind of things, but you just have to do it afraid and know that God will be there with you.
Well, what I said Sunday, that's one of the things I tell myself, shake knees, shake. Where I'm going to take you, you're going to shake worse than that.
That's right.
I mean, so you're scared. So what? Do it anyway.
That's right. Do it anyway.
It's only paralyzing fear if we let it stop us.
Right. And I think you can use fear as energy to move forward.
Yes.
So that's, they say some places they say fear equals opportunity.
Yes.
And I think it really does.
Yes.
But I'm thankful that you're not only surviving, but you're thriving.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm thankful that I'm coming to know you a little bit.
Yes, me too.
Because she's actually the minister at my church where I go. So, and I've recently taken some fearful steps forward. So it's going to be very interesting what happens. And she's also going to be involved with our summit that's going to come up. I've had to change the date to February because the pieces weren't coming together and I didn't have time to get all the pieces hooked up. But I'm excited, and I'm excited to journey more with the Summerton Presbyterian Church and with you and see where it leads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And part of the thing that I remind myself over and over and over again, back when I was in that in-between place between the 2 books, I thought I had to do things perfectly. I wouldn't have told you that, but now that I look back on it, that's what I thought I had to do. I couldn't have any missteps. I couldn't do anything wrong. If I did, it was the end of the world. And then when I finally just gave in and said, I'm never going to get it right, then I just did awful stuff, It's like, what the heck? I'm not going to get it right. So what the heck, I'm doomed to Hades anyway. So, but anyway, once I realized that God saved us while we were yet sinners. Yes. That means, and when he was hanging on that cross, he was hanging there for me at my worst and you at your worst. And everybody that's listening at their worst. At their worst. He didn't die for us at our best. He died for us at our worst. That boggles the mind to think about that, And
I also think it's important to know, sorry, I got a cat sitting by me and she wants to get on the computer, is that, and I like some of the lyrics and some of the music I'm listening to, but God wants, and Jesus wants a relationship with you no matter where you are in your journey.
That's right.
No matter where you are. And if you're not moving towards Jesus, Jesus will move towards you.
Right. You don't have to get cleaned up to find him. He's right there in front of you with his arms wide open, waiting on you to fall in his arms, dirty and everything. The prodigal son came home filthy after rolling around with the hogs, feeding the hogs for a Gentile. Imagine how he smelled when he walked up to his dad. And his dad didn't care. He wrapped his arms around him anyway. And that's just how God is with us. And that's hard to accept, that God accepts us that way.
Yes.
Because
very hard.
That we need to earn love. That's just the human way. And even though we can say all we want to, that we know grace is free, we're still trying to earn it. And
there's still a whole lot of shoulds out there. You should do this and you should do that. And that type thing.
Whole lot of shouldn't going on. Yep.
That's right. I made a mistake when I said that one time and it didn't come out quite right.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
It was not good. But I let it stay right there.
That's right.
So, but I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because this little one right here wants to get on the. Well, she's a neighborhood cat that decided to make my house her home.
Well, good for her.
So she's here, but she's decided that she wants attention right now. But what would be your takeaway for women?
That we are not dependent on anyone but God. That we are to be dependent on God, but that anyone else that tries to make us feel so comfortable where we are that we don't claim our own place in the world is stealing from us. And that gaining the independence to look for what God's call is on your life is just as important as the call on anyone else's life. And so that we should not bury that under a bunch of fear of stepping out, because men have that fear too. So we're selling ourselves short and we're selling the people in our life short, not to say, no, I'm not comfortable staying comfortable. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm not comfortable staying comfortable. I'm going to step out where it's uncomfortable because that's what God's calling me to do. Not because I want to do it, not because of my pride, because see, I was working on pride the first part of my life. Even though I believed in God, I was not surrendered to God. I was doing the Vikki thing. Right. But once I surrendered to God, it's like, it didn't matter how scared I was of doing something. I knew God wanted me to do it. I would do it. It's like, I have it, it's mine to do, you know? So I think there's a balance there between becoming independent women and being dependent on God, totally dependent on God.
Right, right. I know when I was a kid, I had a lot of false piety, and I hid behind that because I was very shy and withdrawn and reserved. And so I do understand that kind of, because I think you can also use that as a shield against other people and against you stepping out and really sharing yourself with other people.
Right.
Anyway, that's another time.
We got a lot of maturing to do as human beings. Yes. It doesn't matter whether we're male or female. Men are just given more opportunities for blossoming at an earlier age than women are. So if you've been stunted in your blossoming at an early age, never fear. There's plenty of opportunity as you grow up and as you grow older. There's still plenty of opportunities for maturing into your spiritual self. And we're never done. It's never a perfected work. So, you know, if you feel like you're not where you want to be, you're in the right place.
Exactly. Just kind of moving forward and going forward and awakening my unique roar and voice.
Exactly. And it is progress, not perfection, which is a recovery term that we use, but I love to use it anyway. Recovery has so many wonderful terms because of the fact that it's built around a program of trusting God. Ultimate trust in God is where the whole program begins and ends, by the way, you know, and getting to ourselves so that we can claim all the parts of ourselves, integrate them into our journey and help other people along the way.
Yes.
You know, one of the great theologians recently, and I can't call his name kindly, but anyway, he made the comment. He said, you know, Christianity is a team sport. Whenever we get to heaven, I'm afraid God's going to be saying, where are the rest of them? Because we think we're in this individual race. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a team sport, man. If you show up without everybody else, you lose. You might get there first, but you lose, you know. It's like, you know, anyway.
It's a team approach.
Exactly, the team approach.
Yes, team approach.
So we're here for each other. And that's really what the journey's all about.
Well, I've enjoyed talking with you immensely and listening to you. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, would they do so through the church, or how would they do that?
They can certainly do it through the church. That would probably be the best way for people to contact me.
Okay,
Somerton Presbyterian Church. Somerton Presbyterian Church. Well, it'd be nice if I memorized the number there, but I don't know.
I don't know it either. Well, I can look it up, actually.
Well, I can too. No, I didn't mean to call it. I was trying to look at the information on it. 803-485-4593. And we're in the office Monday through Thursday from 9 to 1, but I can be in the office at other times if I need to be. But we try to always be somebody being there those times. So,
well, this has been wonderful. I'm going to actually stop the recording now, but I want to say thank you very much. And before we started, I just prayed that this would reach whoever it needed to reach. So I know that somebody there is waiting to hear this message.
thank you so much.
Yes. And